All right, so let's get caught up on what Jirard has been up to. I didn't know, and he said he covers it. I didn't know that the dude had still been making videos. I was never really a completionist watcher. I was aware of his content just through, being on YouTube for so long, but I never really watched him. I knew people that were fans of his, but
Hello, you absolute legends. Can you believe it? It's already been more than a year since the completionist and his family's decade-long charity scam was exposed last November. For those who need a quick refresher, between the years of 2014 and 2023, Jirard and his charity, the Open Hand Foundation, took in around $1 million of donations, money that they said was going to various charities focusing on dementia research. But over that entire time, the truth was that they hadn't donated a single penny, and had kept everything. It was only after Mudahar and myself made our videos about the situation that the Open Hand Foundation finally donated some of the money, donating $600,000 to the AFTD. The completionist public image was pretty much destroyed, and deservedly so. He had been lying for years, and after he was exposed, he took no accountability whatsoever. He made up excuses, made up lies, and more than anything was just angry at us for making the public aware of what he was doing. And it didn't take long for...
do you think this was taken from his apology video? He looks intense and very angry. How could you say this about me, about my family?
The completionist to return to YouTube and continue making content. After his terrible response video, he just moved on and acted as if this entire charity scandal never happened. And his family moved on and didn't care whatsoever either. They even held another golf charity event several months later. This was immediately after it was already proven that for years the golf charity money had never even made it to the Open Hand Foundation. The family was keeping everything. But then, around 4 months ago, the completionist disappeared. And there might be a good reason for this. The completionist production company, That One Video Entertainment LLC, is in huge trouble. I've never spoken about this, but for the past 2 years, the completionist company has been engaged in a frivolous lawsuit against the biggest GTA Online roleplay server, NoPixel, basically trying to extort them for half of their company. And in October, they lost. And now Jirard's company may have to pay back hundreds of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees. And the cherry on top of all of this is that it appears as though the Open Hand Foundation might now be under investigation by the IRS. A lot's been happening, and in today's video, we will take a quick look. I really hope you enjoy.
It's really hard. It's really hard to tell a con man before their con has been made public. Well, I should clarify. It's hard for most people. And I'm not trying to fucking, not hard for me. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that there are certain skills of perception that you have to be developing to see what con men are doing while they're doing it. There's actually a really good video. It's like an anti-propaganda video put up by the U.S. In the 1950s that's about being aware of propaganda. And it's all of the principles they teach in that video are true for con men in general. Because I think con men and propagandists basically use the same psychological tricks to get people on their side. So I don't know if Jirard himself is a con artist or something. I guess we're going to find out, but it is interesting when you go through the sort of relational development of seeing someone in one light. This is a guy who seems genuine or upstanding or like a good person. He does this charity stuff. And then it turns out that a lot of it was a con. That sort of emotional relational shift is really, really interesting. And I think people in general need to become aware of the tricks that con artists and gurus and propagandists like to use to get people on their side. Yeah, and I think there's also something to be said that no one is one thing their entire life. So I think there's an enormous possibility that somewhere along the way, these possibilities came to his life. These potentials for doing illegal and immoral things came into his life but prior to that, he was like an upstanding, decent person. No one is one thing. Well, whatever. But most people aren't just one thing their entire life. So it's very possible that there was some sort of access to power, access to the right person that then made this kind of behavior possible. That goes back to what we were talking about a minute ago, though, about Keanu Reeves and you know, celebrities and people in power who seem to really manage it well. Power, it seems to me, is incredibly revealing of a person's character rather than it is corrupting. And I think when someone is face to face with certain temptations, they're just going to fold, because maybe they don't have the ethical backbone, the ethical support, the maybe like a personal system of honor or character or something. Yeah, and that always seemed, I'll be honest with you, Doc, but the feeling that I had about his videos were that he couldn't possibly be doing all of the work himself. Now, I totally leave room for publications, because publications, an editor will, or a writer or someone that works for the newspaper or website or whatever, a job. Hey, go write about this thing. And then an anchor will then present that finding. But the writer or the journalist or whoever always gets the credit in some way, whether it's said at the front, whether it's in some sort of like scroll at the end of the show, whatever the particular medium we're talking about is, they all have their own way of giving out credits that we all kind of agree is good. When you work on a video game, you get credits at the end of the game, and we consider that good. You can put it on your CV. You can show your friends. You can. It's proof that you were a part of this project. Yeah, and so the thing that was always kind of strange to me is that, and maybe I just totally missed it because I wasn't like a big fan of his work, but it was always presented as he's the completionist, but I could never see how it was possible that someone was completing 100%ing all of these games, so many of them insanely long. And I remember hearing like an interview with him, and he would talk about his crazy strict schedule, but even that, like, there's a demand on hours that games require of you, especially when they're new and guides haven't been fully fleshed out yet. I just didn't buy it, and that was I was reluctant to just kind of share that information, because I always felt like maybe he was more transparent and I just wasn't aware of it, and I never looked into it. That was just the feeling that I got. I wonder if that's been discussed. Like, is he the guy? Is he the one playing the game all the way through every time? If he's not, is he getting assistance and adequately crediting the assistance? Yeah, that's right. Like, but maybe they've accounted for that. Maybe they have done all of the work to credit these people and say, hey, this review was assisted by my friend, my coworker, my whatever. I just don't know, and I haven't done the work to look into it.
Before we start today's video, I want to recognize that I know that I have lost a lot of your trust at home, and I want to spend as much time as it will take to rebuild and re-earn your trust. It's going to take time, but I'm willing to put in the commitment, and I hope you give me a chance.
This is what Jirard said back in January when he returned to YouTube less than 2 months after his charity scam was exposed. I have no idea what he meant when he said that he wanted to re-earn your trust, because after this statement, he continued to pretend that nothing ever happened and he never spoke of it again. For the next 8 months, Jirard would continue to post videos to his channel, hoping to resuscitate his brand. The quality, however, was now greatly diminished because most of his employees either quit or he let them go. And then in August, he released a video about alien isolation and hasn't been seen since. But while Jirard was pretending that everything was hunky-dory on the surface, behind the scenes, shit was hitting the fan. For the past year, many people, including myself, have been waiting for the Open Hand Foundation to file their 2023 IRS tax forms. Personally, I wanted to see if anything changed after they got exposed. Were they suddenly going to start properly declaring their income now that so many eyeballs were focused on their charity? Well, what's interesting is that the Open Hand Foundation hasn't filed their 2023 IRS tax form, despite it being long past the deadline.
Really?
If you search the charity through the Office of the Attorney General, it says their reporting is incomplete and the IRS form is required. This hasn't happened in any other year. The Open Hand Foundation have always filed their forms on time. So it's very peculiar that at a time where it's more important than ever to be transparent, they aren't reporting. Of course, there are multiple possible reasons why they aren't submitting their forms. The most obvious would be they haven't yet done their 2023 accounting, but it could
That would be so fucking stupid. That would be so stupid if they just hadn't done their accounting. It can't be that. It has to be something involved with the lawsuit. Yeah, you're right. It really, at this point, the journalistic integrity of his reviews aren't much of a concern. But I guess where I was going with that initially is that if it is true that he was in some way misleading people intentionally about the games that he was supposedly completing, what that means is that this dude was this way this whole time. He was a con artist from the beginning. But again, that doesn't really matter at this point. This is the important shit.
Could also mean they're currently being audited by the IRS. Personally, I think it's the latter, given how many people reported the charity after the scandal broke. Another piece of evidence to support the fact that they are being audited is that it does appear they have already done their 2023 accounting. So there doesn't seem to be any other legitimate reason not to file. We know they've done their 2023 accounting because as part of their 2024 annual charity registration to the Office of the Attorney General, they needed to state their revenue and expenses for the previous year, which they did. And this is where things get very interesting. This form doesn't give us any breakdown like the IRS tax forms would, but it does give us a few basic figures. It says that in 2023, the Open Hand Foundation raised $155,000. This is significant because it's by far the most revenue the organization has ever reported in a single year. The previous highest total was back in 2021, when they raised $136,000, but that was under very different circumstances, so let's compare. In 2021, Jirard's fundraiser Indieland received $113,000 in donations just through Tiltify alone. The charity also received a $25,000 grant from Jamie Lee Curtis's charity, Syzygy. Just these two income sources alone already amount to more than the $136,000 they reported, which means all of the bits, subs, merch sales, and all of the golf charity money simply vanished. Jirard's company or his family just took the rest. And this pattern of money vanishing continued from the years 2019 all the way through to 2022.
Boots.
A total of 4 years, and the money that went missing probably totaled several $100,000. But in 2023, after the public realized Jirard's family was stealing money, suddenly everything changed. In 2023, Indieland only raised $64,000 in donations through Tiltify. This is $50,000 less than in 2021, and yet magically, 2023 was the Open Hand Foundation's best year ever, raising $20,000 more than they did in 2021. It is a miracle. By the grace of God, the Khalil family has finally learned how to properly report their income. It's amazing. We already knew that Jirard and his company were stealing money before, but this most recent accounting is just the nail in the coffin. It is so brazenly obvious that once they were exposed, they decided it would be unwise to continue skimming off the top. And as a result, despite last year being one of Indieland's worst performing years ever by far, the Open Hand Foundation was more profitable than it's ever been. Another interesting thing about—
Dude, this is, I just want to say, I'm reminded of knowing people in my personal life that were totally cool with me, like insofar as we didn't have any personal issues. In fact, sometimes these people would have been my friends. But as you get older, you start to see behaviors emerge, and they start to do things in public that betray the person that you thought that they were, and the person that they may have said that they were. It's always been really hard for me. You know, we talk about loyalty and how important a value loyalty is, and it is. It's selective. Loyalty has to be selective. It's by nature selective. But I guess what I would find is that people would do things to betray the person that they said they were. And then I would find myself struggling with continuing to be their friend, and always feeling like a sense of guilt because that seems disloyal. But I don't trust people. I can't trust people who behave a way in private and behave differently in public. And I don't mean like they superficially alter their personality to kind of like, you know, you can clean up your personality to appear better on TV. Like if you're doing some sort of presentation, you're doing the news or whatever, you take the real personality you have, you shave off the rough edges, and you present a very cleaned up version. I think that's totally fine. What I mean is everyone's familiar with this Jungian shadow, right? In our psychology. It's something that the Persona series covers. It's all over YouTube. Jordan Peterson has made it super famous. I think there's some truth to it. I don't believe in any what am I trying to say? Like, I don't believe in any sort of supernatural element to it, but I think that they offer kind of psychological frameworks that help make sense of our lives. And when you see a person's so-called shadow emerge, and they do these bad behaviors, they do these bad things that hurt people or cause trouble or like create rifts in society and relationships and in families. It's just always been really hard for me personally to continue carrying on with that friendship as if they had never done that thing. I think that good relationships, good friendships are built on trust, and I think that that's just a fracturing of trust. I'm reminded of the way that you see this particular face when he is a symbol of like good behavior online. He uses his platform for good. He has a lot of eyeballs. He raises a lot of money for ALS or whatever the fuck it is. And we look at this face as a symbol of like good, moral, just behavior. But in retrospect, when you tell me that for years and years and years, he personally, alongside his brother, whoever else, had been taking money from the charity, which is inherently like the money was raised specifically to go to a place to help fund some sort of research or some sort of destitution, whatever that was. But they were necessarily, by the act that they committed, they were taking money from that intention on the donator's part. The donator said, I'm giving you $20 so that you can send it to help fund ALS research or whatever it was. And the idea that I give you these $20 and then you take 5 to give 15 is disgusting. It's abhorrent. If you know in advance, hey, we are for profit, and we're giving this percentage away, that's different. That's completely different. That's a whole other ethical conversation. Can you have some sort of for-profit charity? Maybe you can't even use the word charity if there is profit involved. But my point is that if there's at least knowledge, you can adjust your personal donation. If I know that they're going to take some off the top, but I like this guy and I want to support his life and I want to support the research of, backwards toenails, then I will adjust my donation and I will say, okay, in that case, 25. You take your 5, 20 goes there. I'm happy with that because I like you. But by, again, hiding it, by being a fucking sneak, it totally changes the emotional reception of this face. This no longer becomes the face, this no longer is a face of good behavior. It's a face of like trust breaking, of sneakiness. And I don't know, like I'm not sure exactly where I'm going with this, but I just find that really interesting, that how quickly it can change. Like, this should be a warning shot for all people who are doing things in public. I don't know, just be fucking wise, people. Be wise. Make your money responsibly, unless you don't really give a fuck if you lose it. Because that possibility is always there. And maybe it's more there now than ever before.
Money before, but this most recent accounting is just
super fascinating, and I don't know anything about it. I mean, I've read some books, but I have no formal study or education in it. It's super interesting. Super interesting. I have a very sincere and deep personal interest in ethics and behaving online, like being ethical online. I think it's something every person should be grappling with. But big, like moments like this is a big moment in the sort of gaming niche, because of how important charity building has been for streamers and YouTubers. It's part of our normalized culture. We do charity streams, it's something that streamers and YouTubers have used to help proliferate their own content. And that's good. That's not a bad thing in any way. But this certainly causes people to like question or doubt or like, can I even reliably give my money to this motherfucker? Is he going to be skimming it like Jirard? It's tough. And, you know, maybe there's a little bit of like, you ruined it for everybody. I don't know if that's even possible. It's probably not possible, but I guess my point is that this affects so much. All this whole catastrophe and downfall of this career and this channel, it's so far reaching.
The nail in the coffin. It is so brazenly obvious that once they were exposed, they decided it would be unwise to continue skimming off the top. And as a result, despite last year being one of Indieland's worst performing years ever by far, the Open Hand Foundation was more profitable than it's ever been. Another interesting thing about this form is that it shows the Open Hand Foundation is still holding on to $200,000. And this is before their 2024 golf charity event, where they would have collected even more in donations. Why are they still keeping this money? One thing I've come to realize is that while Jirard may have been very concerned with his public image, his family, specifically his brother and father, couldn't care less. This is why back in May, they continued running their golf charity tournament as if nothing ever happened. If you look at the Open Hands website now, Indieland has been removed as one of the charity events, leaving only the golf tournament. And the golf event was never something that Jirard was a part of organizing. And it's why the Open Hand Foundation now feels comfortable going back to hoarding donations, because the public backlash that was originally directed at Jirard now has nowhere to go. When the Open Hand Foundation made their $600,000 donation after the story initially broke, they still had $200,000 sitting in the bank. And this is only from the reported income. As I said before, I suspect Jirard's family has siphoned hundreds of thousands of dollars out of the charity over the years. But I can't think of a single good reason why they still need to keep $200,000 in the bank, when their expenses average around $10,000 to $15,000 per year. And literally the only purpose of the charity is to be a middleman between Good Samaritans and charities that actually do dementia research. As I said before, the lack of filing to the IRS is a pretty good indication the charity is now under investigation. And I really do hope this is the case. But the IRS isn't the only thing Jirard now has to worry about, because Jirard's company, That One Video Entertainment, has just lost a huge lawsuit.
Oh, this is the
That One
GTA
Video Entertainment
RP.
LLC is the company that Jirard created in 2012 that all of his business activities fall under, including all of his YouTube channels and his charity event, Indieland. I will be calling it Tove for short. On Jirard's LinkedIn page, he states he is the owner, president, and CEO of Tove. And in April of 2023, Tove sued GTA Online's most well-known role-playing server, NoPixel. NoPixel is owned by Coil Content Creation Proprietary Limited, which was started by a fellow Aussie, Mitchell Clout, otherwise known online as Coil. If you follow The Completionist, but don't follow GTA Online role-playing, you've probably never heard of this lawsuit. And even if you have, you probably have the wrong idea about who is suing who. And that's because the reporting on this lawsuit has been abysmal and full of misinformation. It all started in May 2023, when a user posted the lawsuit to Reddit, claiming that DW was suing NoPixel. DW was a developer that worked for NoPixel for several years, but he and NoPixel's owner Coil had a falling out in December of 2022, and DW ended his relationship with
DW? Arthur's sister?
the server. The day after this viral Reddit post, Dexerto signal boosted the story with the headline, "Former GTA RP NoPixel server dev DW is suing owner Coil for considerable sum." However, this was all completely false. It wasn't DW that was suing NoPixel, it was the completionist company, Tove. It literally says who the parties are on the first page of the lawsuit.
Guys.
I don't understand how everyone got this wrong. Tove's lawsuit asserted that because DW developed some code for the
Dude, that's embarrassing. That's so embarrassing. If you're going to report on a lawsuit, get the plaintiffs right. At least get the most basic details correct. So much reporting is just telling what they read elsewhere, and so that they can just shift the blame off. Oh, they reported this. At least do the bare minimum, guys, please.
Everyone got this wrong. Tove's lawsuit asserted that because DW developed some code for the NoPixel servers, and DW was an employee of Tove, this meant that Tove owned the code that DW developed, and thus Tove should own half of NoPixel. But this entire lawsuit was a shakedown and an extortion attempt from day one.
Yeah, what the fuck? That's insanity.
It was all bullshit. We are talking Billy Mitchell levels of frivolous. Everything about this lawsuit was a lie, and it's going to take a separate and quite lengthy video to cover everything in detail. But if you thought that charity was the only scam that Jirard and his company were pulling, you couldn't be more wrong. Needless to say, this lawsuit never made it to trial. In October, the judge ruled in favor of NoPixel, and now NoPixel is seeking attorney's fees of $233,000, and they are probably going to get it. Unlike most other lawsuits in America, when you sue specifically for copyright infringement, it's actually actually built right into the statute that you can get attorney's fees if you win. And because Tove's lawsuit was so frivolous, and the judge didn't even see a need to go to trial before ruling in NoPixel's favor, Tove is probably going to have to pay up big time. As soon as the judge makes a ruling on the motion for attorney's fees, I will do a full breakdown of this lawsuit, because it really proves that Jirard's shady behavior surrounding his charity was not an isolated event. Until then, thank you so much for watching, you legends. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.
That's it. That's the point. That's the point that I was getting to. Was it or was it not an isolated incident? And based on what we just heard about with this NoPixel lawsuit, isolated is not the word I would use. It is a continuous. Oh, also, I wanted to see about this honey scam. Oh, he literally called him a con artist. Look at that. Uh-oh, pizza's here.